Hi, this is Ron from RJM Music Technology. We're going to give you a quick look at our new Mastermind PBC editor software. This software is available for the Mac and PC, and it'll allow you to connect your Mastermind PBC to your computer and do some deep editing on all the parameters. If you're a PBC owner, probably the first thing you want to do when getting the editor is read the settings into the editor from your PBC. And so what you want to do is use a USB cable and connect the Mastermind PBC to your computer. And then up in the transfer menu, you want to go and read settings from device. And when you select that, it will show a bar graph, and it'll take a minute or so to read all those settings in. And then a copy of your settings will be available in the editor for you. I would recommend right away going into the file menu and saving those settings into a file so you have a backup. It's always important to keep backups of your settings in case something goes awry. So now that you've got your settings in here, I'm leaving mine at the default settings for now. Now that we've got these settings, the globals page here that you start on is sort of the overall system parameters. And we're not going to go over most of these in this video, but I'll show you a few things quickly. Importantly, we have the audio settings in this area here, and this allows you to turn the click stoppers on and off and adjust how long they operate. You can also set loops 7 through 10 to be series or parallel for all of your presets, and that's sort of a quick shortcut. And then also you can turn on the delay and reverb trails for those loops that are parallel as well. This is also where you would edit your expression pedals and external switches. Some viewers will note that there are actually 4 expression pedal parameters when the PBC only has 1 expression pedal. Why that is a topic of another video. For now, just use only the first expression pedal slot. And you can click these edit buttons and it brings you into a screen that allows you to edit those parameters. This will be dealt with later. We can switch over to the devices page, and this is very much like the onboard device editing that you find on the PBC. You have 16 device slots here, and you can just select one, and what we can do is add another device. By default, there's a mini effect gizmo defined in the first slot on MIDI channel 1. You can, of course, change that to something else. What we're going to do is add a second device, and all you have to do is pick a manufacturer of strymon, and then let's say Mobius, and we can set that to MIDI channel 2. And so you can edit the name, change these parameters, but generally if it's a device that's in the database, all this stuff is set for you except for the MIDI channel. If your device is not listed, you can pick generic and PCCC device, and that basically lets you just sort of manually set all the parameters like you would on a standard MIDI controller. And now we can switch over to the buttons page, and this is where it gets really interesting. This is some stuff you can't do currently on the onboard editing. This allows you to see how your buttons are configured, and most importantly, it allows you to get at all the parameters, move the buttons around, and look at all the different button pages. And that's a really important concept in the Mastermind PBC, are the button pages. The first page is what you see when you turn the PBC on, and it has the preset buttons, bank up and bank down, the tuner mute, etc. And it has the loops and switches buttons, which what they actually do is switch you to a different page. And so what I can do here is just move to the next page, switch to page 2, and now you can see all the buttons have changed function. There's the buttons that access the 10 loops, and you can see in the top row 7, 8, 9, and 10 have a second function. They control whether the loop is parallel or series, and those are activated by holding the button down for a couple seconds on the PBC. In the upper left, there's a button that brings you back to the first page, or if you hold it, it'll store the current settings of your loops. And then switching over to the third page, this is the switches page, and this is the one that allows you to turn on function switches, the buffers, the outputs, and the dry signal send to the mixer. There are a total of 16 global pages, and the rest of them are not defined, so you can go in there and edit them yourselves to do anything you want. Over here you can edit the name of each page, and that's what's displayed when that page is active. If, like on the first page, you don't have a name defined, then you'll see the preset name and number when you're on that page. But if you switch to a page that has a name, the page name will be displayed on the top, and the current preset name will be displayed in the bottom row on the PBC's main screen. So in the screen, you can do a lot of cool things. Let's say, for example, you want your loop mode button down in the corner over here. You can just take it and drag it over here, and now the loop button is down here, and the global preset button is up there, which, obviously very powerful. What you can do also is assign these buttons to something else. And yes, when you mouse over these buttons, it shows a sort of a tooltip that shows all the parameters of the button. But if you right-click on a button, or on a Mac, control-click, you'll get a pop-up menu. You can change the type of the button, which can be preset button. IA buttons are sort of the general purpose buttons that you can assign to do a bunch of things, including sending MIDI messages, bank up, bank down. You can even have preset up and preset down buttons, and so on. That's the first thing. Button grouping we'll deal with in another video. And then assign CC is where things kind of get fun. You can assign a particular function to a button that's from one of your devices. So we can say, well, let's say I have in loop 3 a boost pedal that I like to use, and I don't really need that global preset function, but I could sure use a button on this first page that accesses a pedal in loop 3. So I can just hit that, and ta-da! Now it's a loop 3 button, and it will control the third loop on the PBC. You can do this with external devices as well. You saw that I set a mini effect gizmo up, or that's by default actually, and you can have it control any one of those loops. On the Mobius, there's a few functions as well. We can make it a tap tempo button, bypass, phase reset, any of that stuff. You'll note that the generic device we created doesn't have an entry here, and that's because we don't know what the parameters it has available to control, and so we have to go in a little deeper to do manual editing for a generic device. Also in this menu, you can copy and paste buttons. This is a good way to get buttons from one page to another, and you can copy entire button pages using these options. If you double-click a button, it pops up the full button editor view, and so you can see everything about the button. You can see that this button is a normal button, and a normal button is considered one that just does something when you press it. You can also set it to hold, which means that it has two functions, one when you press it and one when you hold it for a couple seconds. Then the button type here is the same menu that we saw popping up, where you can set it to be an IA button, a bank up, bank down, preset, etc. There's an awful lot of parameters here, but what we'll do is we'll just look at a few of these. You can name the button. Obviously, this only shows up in the editor, but it is a good, useful thing to have for for reference, to tell you what the buttons actually do. And you can set the on color and the off color for the LED, for each function as well. And so let's say we want to say, well, we'll actually want this one to be on red when this loop is not on, and we'll say that it's white when it is on. But you can change that to anything you like, of course. On an IA button, the most important thing are the IA actions, and that's a list of commands that the button does when you press it. And so this is the most powerful concept, where you can stack multiple MIDI commands or other things on a button. Here we have an audio command. It's controlling a loop, number 3, and when the button is off, we're turning the loop off, and when the button is on, we're turning the loop on. And that's all this happened automatically when we assigned it to loop 3. You can go in and add other things as well. So let's say we want to add a second function. We can say, well, we really need to turn on loops 3 and 5, because those are the two pedals I want to have come on when I press this button. You can go in and say new action, set the action type to audio, and then it's a loop, and then we want to have it set to number 5. And so now we've just made it do two things. We can go further, and we can even say, add a CC action. We can say, let's go to this mini effect gizmo, and we will also want to turn on loop 1 on the mini effect gizmo. Let's pull this over so we can see it. We hit that, and so now the button does three things. It turns on loop 3 and 5 internally, and loop 1 on the mini effect gizmo. And you can go in and edit the CC numbers, the on values, and the off values, and so you can pretty much do whatever you want when it comes to MIDI on these buttons. You can have up to 20 actions on a single IA button. When you're done editing, you just hit the done button and get back to the main screen. So now we can go over to the presets tab, and this one allows you, obviously, to edit the presets. And what you'll see here, you have preset name, and then down here is the one of the more important things, the PC messages. And this controls for each preset which presets are selected on your devices. Let's say, for example, on preset 2, I really want Mobius preset number 7 to come on, and for preset 3, I want Mobius preset number 1 to come on. And so this is what tells it how to change the presets on your connected MIDI devices. Generally, things like the mini effect gizmo in our products just like to have the preset numbers left alone, where it just says, 0, 1, 2, and it's just numbered sequentially. And for our products, you generally want to do that. But for effect processors, you want to be able to reuse certain sounds, and so you want to call them up by number. And so that's where you start editing these program change numbers. And you can see here our generic device that we set is also editable as well. The other thing that's really important is the IA state, and this lets you turn on particular loops or other functions automatically when you select a preset. So let's say on preset 3, if we go over to page 2 here, if you remember, this is the one that has all of our loop buttons, and you say, well, preset 3, I need loop 4 and loop 8 on, and so now it'll remember this for us. We can go to the next preset, and let's say we need loops 9 and 10 on, and we want these loops to be parallel. And so to activate that, instead of holding the buttons, which is what you would do on the PBC, you actually hold shift and then click them, and you can see the lights turn from blue to purple, indicating that these loops are on and in parallel. We can also go over here to the second page, and this is where we have our buffers, the outputs, and the dry signal, and all the other switches, and these are assignable just as well. And we can go back here, for example, and say on preset 2, well, we're going to turn on a fuzz pedal that's, say, in loop 1, and then we'll go to the second page and say, but it's a fuzz pedal, it doesn't like buffers, so we're going to turn off buffer 1. And so now, as you see, when we switch presets, it remembers these things and calls up your settings. One more thing we're going to address quickly in this video is the MIDI tab at the end, and this allows you to set the MIDI parameters for the device. You can set up a MIDI clock, sending and receiving for tap tempo, and you can set up a receive channel if you want the PBC to be controlled by another MIDI controller or a computer. You can set it to receive on a particular channel, and then connecting a device to the remote in will make the PBC respond to program changes and control changes. Over here in this list, you can scroll through it, and this is all of the internal switches that we support, and you can assign controller numbers to each one of those. So that's all we're going to do in this video. Certainly feel free in the comments to ask for other topics. We're going to just do these in short videos and try to address sort of how-tos on how to get the PBC to do particular tasks. If you have questions, certainly feel free to check out our forum online, or also you can mail support@rjmmusic.com.